Good morning, friends. My name is Bella Thomas Wilson, and I'm a board member here at TVUC. Whoever you are and wherever you're from, we're excited to welcome you here today. If you would like some more information about TVUC, please fill out the visitor card that should be in the seat back right in front of you, and we have a collection plate that you can drop it in on your way out. If you're interested in our youth education programs, check the table that you passed on your way in here that's just right in the hallway. And Miriam should be there to answer any questions you might have. So firstly, I'm going to call up Catherine Loya. She has an exciting announcement for us.
Good morning. I am delighted to introduce our guest preacher for this morning, Michael Eselun, who will be sharing the service with us today. And Michael serves as the chaplain for the Mann UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. He's a two-time TEDx speaker, and he speaks extensively to healthcare professionals, patient populations, and faith communities across the country. Long serving as an adjunct faculty member at the Wiesenthal Center, Museum of Tolerance, he's also worked as an activist and educator addressing anti-LGBTQ bias in the larger community as well for well over 30 years. And Michael was recently inducted into the UCLA Semel Institute Eudaimonia Society in recognition of having lived a meaning-driven life. And Michael has my fervent endorsement too for being here with us, as I have known him for many years through his connection with the UU Community Church in Santa Monica, California, the congregation I served prior to coming here to TVUC. And it is my great joy to share the pulpit with him today, as this congregation now has the opportunity to experience his deep wisdom, kindness, and insight about life's journey. So welcome, Michael. Thank you.
All right, so the Endowment Committee has funding for non-routine projects and programs. TVUC members and staff are eligible to apply for funding. For more information about that, please please attend a Q&A session after church on September 15th. For more information now, you can also contact Pat Bing, and she's waving right back there if you would like to see what she looks like. All right, and then if you're interested in learning about Unitarian Universalism, please look in your order of service for the information about the Starting Points class that will be held today with Mark Mahundro. This is also the start of Justice Knox, which is a multi-congregational consortium. TVUC had the highest involvement in the Nehemiah Action Assembly last spring, which is very exciting, so pat yourself on the back. If you're interested in getting involved, look for Barbara Taylor, and she can also wave if she's in here. Right back there. Yay! Thank you, Barbara. All right, today's offering is a generosity offering, so all of the contributions will go to TVUC if they're not marked as pledged. There are offertory baskets as you leave the sanctuary, and then you can also check your order of service at the bottom, and it will tell you all of the ways that you can give. So today is September 1st, so it's First Sunday, so please join us after the service for our First Sunday lunch. And if you will please silence your cell phones now, we will enter into worship.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
It is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. With these words from Auguries of Innocence, William Blake reminds us that under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. In a way, our faith community here is that silken twine, weaving each of our individual threads into a cloth that just might keep us warm enough to find our way. So we will light the chalice in a moment this morning to symbolize that warmth and the guidance that can come from that sacred cloth. Come, let us worship together. Please join in singing hymn number 17 in the gray hymnal, Every Night and Every Morn, hymn number 17. that we gather here in this room and watching from another space in this building or from home. I have a story to share this morning that is adapted from a story written by Mac Barnett, and it begins in a cold town in the winter. How many of us have ever been in the snow before? It was snowy and cold in the deep of winter in this town, and in this town lived a little girl named Annabelle. And one day, Annabelle found something. She found a box. And when she opened it up, she discovered that this box was filled with yarn of all different colors. So what do you think Annabelle did? She knit herself a sweater. But when she was done with her sweater, there was extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for her dog Mars, too. They were warm and cozy on that winter day when they were taking a walk after that, and a kid from Annabelle's class saw them and pointed at them and started laughing, and he said, "You look ridiculous with your matching sweaters." And Annabelle said, "You're just jealous." And the kid said, "No, I'm not." But it turned out he was. And when Annabelle had knit a sweater for him to wear, she still had extra yarn. Well, when she went to school the next day, she was wearing her sweater, and so was her friend who had a sweater too, and the teacher was not real happy because all the other kids were turning around and looking at Annabelle's sweater and her friend's sweater too, and the teacher finally said, "I cannot teach with you wearing this sweater. It is too distracting." And Annabelle said, "Well, if I make a sweater for everybody, then it won't be distracting anymore. They won't have to turn around to look at it." And the teacher said, "That's impossible. You can't do that." But it turned out that she could. And when she was done knitting sweaters for everybody in her class, she still had some extra yarn. So she began knitting sweaters for other people in the town. She knit a sweater for the doctor, and she knit a sweater for the mail carrier. And then once she ran out of people, she made so many sweaters, she still had some extra yarn. So she started making sweaters for the critters too, the dogs and the cats. And there was still extra yarn in the box. So she began making sweaters for things that don't even wear sweaters. She made a sweater for a tree, and she made a sweater for the mailbox. And pretty soon, people from all around, far and wide, heard about this miraculous girl with her never-ending yarn and came to see her and shake her hand. And this went on for some time as she made more and more sweaters for all kinds of things. And one day, she was visited by an archduke from a neighboring country who had heard about this because he was an archduke who loved clothing. Is there anybody here who really enjoys clothing? And he had decided he had to have this yarn box for himself. And so he said to Annabelle, "If you will sell me your box of yarn, I will give you," how much money do you think he offered? He said, "I will give you $1 million. And Annabelle said, "No thanks," as she continued knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. And he was astounded, and he said, "Fine, $2 million. And she said, "No, thank you." And the Archduke's mustache twitched a little bit. And then finally he said, "All right, you are quite a negotiator. I will give you $10 million for your box of yarn." And what do you think Annabelle said? She said, "No thanks, my yarn's not for sale." The Archduke was very upset about that. And that night, he hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house and steal the box of yarn. And as soon as he had it in his hands, he got on a ship and sailed across the sea to his country, where he went into his castle, feeling very pleased with himself, sat down in his favorite chair, and opened up the box. and the box was empty. He was the maddest he had ever been, and with rage, he hurled the box out the window of his castle as he said, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But it turned out that she was. Because amazingly, that box flew right out the window of the castle, landed on an ice floe at the sea nearby, floated all the way across the sea, and just happened to come up to shore right where Annabelle and Mars were sitting looking out to sea. And Annabelle thought, that looks a lot like my box. And when she opened it up, what do you think she found? She found some extra yarn. And that is our story for this morning, and our learners and leaders who are heading to our religious exploration spaces will head out as we sing our recessional today. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to everyone here at the church and to everyone watching on the live stream. This morning our hearts go out to Jack McElroy, his son Nathaniel, and his son's significant other, Macy Dukes. Macy, who is 27, has been diagnosed with lung cancer. She is receiving chemotherapy, but a recent scan shows that the cancer has spread beyond her lungs. Jack says Macy is like a daughter-in-law to him and his wife, Deborah. Please keep this family in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this crisis. Owen Villaverde has a new hockey home as a goalie for the Junior Cyclones out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Owen and his parents, Patrick and Carol Villaverde, will be traveling there twice a week for practices and then for games. Carol says we are grateful for the support of our TVUUC family and ask that everyone continue to send love and light, especially to Owen, as we begin this new adventure. In addition, Carol is currently vacationing in Ireland with her sister and mother, so we send good vibes to Patrick, who will be a single parent for about 12 days. And this from MJ Aiken. Thank you, TVUUC members, choir, and caring table volunteers for your unwavering support. I could not and cannot do it without y'all. Captain Chance is my inspiration too. The progression of multiple sclerosis has continued as my walking and talking abilities continue to decrease. I started a new, to me, disease-modifying therapy known as DMT. It is stronger than my previous DMT. It was started 2 weeks ago in hopes of slowing down the progression of this disabling disease. Neurologists and MRIs show that I should not be walking, but rather in a wheelchair or bedridden. Humbled, blessed, and grateful to all at TVUUC. And Jennifer, thank you for your love, patience, support, and your chef-level cooking. And one last thing, I'm looking for Faye, I don't know that she's in the room, but happy birthday to Faye Joyce. For everyone with joys and concerns, both those shared and those unspoken, we hold you up to the light and we send you our love.
Good morning. As a reading today, I'd like to offer this by Parker J. Palmer. It's called Everything Falls Away. Sooner or later, everything falls away. You, the work you've done, your successes, large and small, your failures too. Those moments when you were light alongside the times when you became one with the night. The friends, the people you loved, who loved you, those who might have wished you ill, none of this is forever. All of it is soon to go, or going, or long gone. Everything falls away, except the thread you followed. Unknowing, all along, the thread that strings together all you've been and done, the thread you didn't know you were tracking until toward the end, you see that the thread is what stays, as everything else falls away. Follow that thread as far as you can, and you'll find that it does not end, but weaves into the unimaginable vastness of life. Your life never was a solo turn, it seemed to be. It was always part of the great weave of nature and humanity and immensity. We come to know only as we follow our own small threads to the place where they merge with the boundless whole. Each of our threads runs its course, then joins in life together, this magnificent tapestry, this masterpiece in which we live forever. As we move into a time of silent reflection and contemplation, I invite you to get comfortable in your seats, perhaps close your eyes or dim them. And let's just take a few nice, deep breaths together as we settle in. As we breathe, we move into this time of silence. I invite you to let the words of Wendell Berry wash over you and seep inside. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we've come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings.
Look at this face, I know the years are showing. Look at this life, I still don't know where it's going. I don't know much, but I know I love you. And that may be all I need to know. Look at these eyes, they've never seen what mattered. Look at these dreams, so beaten and so battered. I don't know much, but I know I love you. And that may be all I need to know. So many questions still left unanswered. So much I've never broken through. And when I feel you near me, sometimes I see so clearly the only truth I've ever known is me and you. Look at this woman, so blessed with inspiration. Look at this soul, still searching for salvation. I don't know much, but I know I love you. And that may be all I need to know. I don't know much, but I know I love you. And that may be all I need to know. I don't know much, but I know I love you. And that may be all there is to know.
As an oncology chaplain, sometimes when I'm getting acquainted with a patient for the very first time, I will often ask, tell me, what's a perfect day look like for you? Before you got diagnosed, you don't have to work, you're feeling pretty good, what would that be for you? My intention is to find out in a quick and easy way what floats their boat. Where do they get their juice in life? What is it that gives it its meaning? And it can often be a very telling answer. Although sometimes I must admit I sit in judgment when someone fumbles for an answer. Oh, I don't know, watching TV, I guess. Carl, newly diagnosed with lung cancer, took no time at all to respond. Oh, watching my son play soccer and then taking him out for an ice cream. That answer reveals so much, doesn't it? A few years ago, I had a patient, Kelly, who gave me a little Christmas gift. It was a teeny spool of thread wrapped up in a poem written by William Stafford called The Way It Is. There's a thread you follow. It runs among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people suffer, they die, you hurt and you grow old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. That is such a profoundly succinct summation, isn't it? And what a beautiful gift. Carl had no trouble at all coming up with his thread. Would you? What would yours be, do you suppose? The older I get, the more my life story unfolds, I find myself wondering if it's really as simple as all that. Is it as clean as all that? Is the thread really unbreakable? Is it really unchanging? I thought I had a good grip on it, but then divorce happened, or cancer, or bankruptcy, or the career that seemed to define me vanished. Do I have to find a new thread or a new way to define the old one? Or is it enough to surrender to my faith in the idea that the damn thread exists in the first place? If the thread does exist, and I like to believe that it does, I find it can be an arduous journey of distillation to find it. A journey that can take years, if not decades. A kind of spiritual distillation, if you will. That particular kind of spiritual distillation is a challenge that confronts so many on the cancer journey. If I can no longer be, do, or have what I once was, who would I even be then? Do I even exist? If I'm no longer the supermom who never misses a soccer game or birthday party, am I even still the mom? Yet, while I have a good grip on the thread, it can serve as a kind of guy wire, stabilizing me in stormy times. But I also wonder if it might be conceptualized not just as a thread to run through my life or beneath my life, but what about a thread to wrap around my life, to give it some coherence, to give it some meaning, finding a place for all the disparate pieces of my puzzle. A puzzle that might need to be rearranged and reconfigured time and again because life just demands it. But still, it can be a hard journey to drill down and find it. My sister Terry was a pioneer in women's surfing, competing at the national level in the 60s and 70s. She co-produced and co-directed the first professional women's surfing championship in Malibu in 1975. She's 75 years old now. She still loves to surf. But as you can imagine, it grieves her that she can't do all the things she once could, or certainly not as easily. She told me that not long ago she bumped into an old surfing chum from back in the day at the beach, and they were bemoaning this particular state of affairs. And he said, "Tare, you know what I came to realize? It was always just about getting wet." I loved that. I thought it was about thrills or competition or winning, but it was just about getting wet. That's distillation. I'm an old former professional dancer, and I still take dance class every Saturday with a bunch of old farts like me. And I face the very same confrontation every Saturday, coming face to face with the limitations of a body that won't do what it once did. It's not easy. But a number of years ago, I came to a different relationship with those limitations, a different kind of conceptualization. I have never seen a dance performance that knocked me in the gut with more power, more intensity than Donna McKechnie in the original Broadway production of A Chorus Line in 1976 in New York City. That was some kind of heady experience for this 21-year-old aspiring professional dancer from Los Angeles on his first trip to New York. Kind of transcendent, actually. Well, a number of years ago, Donna performed at an AIDS benefit in Los Angeles. She was maybe in her early 60s at the time. She put on quite a bit of weight, and she wore a big flowing caftan-like dress. She offered a highly truncated version of her tour de force from A Chorus Line, The Music in the Mirror. Oh, there were remnants of the original choreography here and there, hitting a line, an arm gesture, the flick of a head. I sat in my seat and just sobbed. Not out of grief or loss or sadness for what had been, but crying at the unmistakable beauty of essence, of her essence. An essence that might have even been camouflaged once upon a time by her youth and agility. In some ways, that performance had more power for me than had she been soaring across the stage of the Schubert Theater in front of that bank of mirrors in that red dress. Distillation. I had been told that Keith had been a brilliant architect, but when I met him long after his glioblastoma diagnosis, that brain tumor had wiped out any brilliance he had. He found it nearly impossible to compose a coherent sentence. Still, he loved to spend time with me every week, so every week we'd make an appointment for an hour. Hard to have a conversation, but there was one sentence he used quite readily and easily. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As if his whole life had been distilled and reduced down to a sense of apology for not being who he once was, not being able to communicate as he once could. I finally had to say, Keith, one rule in here. No, I'm sorry. We can spend this hour any way you like. We can sit in silence, we can meditate, we can pray, we can cry, we can just take hands and look at each other and smile. But this has to be one place where you don't feel like you're letting anybody down. Certainly not me. I never got to know him in the context of his brilliance. And yet, I kind of fell in love with the guy, with the sweetness of his smile, tenderness of his heart, gentleness of his spirit. That's distillation. Drilling down to identify that thread is one thing. Finding a way for it to wrap around our story, to give it that coherence, is something else altogether. Particularly when some tragedy has befallen our life, some loss. Some losses demand so much of us. Particularly, we have to let go often of expectations of how we thought our lives could be or should be or wanted them to be or hoped they would be. Sometimes we even have to let go of hope altogether. At least hope that things will get better. In some circumstances, they won't get better, guaranteed to get worse. Is it still possible to find a way to wrap around that story, to hold us together enough for us to take the next steps, at least, that life demands of us? last October, I got to take the most wonderful 2-week solo journey to Turkey. And there I got a vivid reminder of something I've long known to be true. There's the thing, and there's our experience of the thing. And they're not the same thing. Ask anyone, and they will tell you one of the primo sights to see in all of Turkey is the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. And it is indeed magnificent. But on that particular Sunday morning, after waiting through an impossibly long line, going through security, navigating the hordes of people inside, my experience of the place did not begin to match the grandeur, the majesty of the architecture. By contrast, I had a far more potent, meaningful, even tearful experience visiting a far more modest 13th century wooden mosque called Eşrefoglu in a teeny village called Beyşehir. The experience is different from the thing itself. For over 25 years, I served as a co-chair and co-founder of a now defunct nonprofit organization called GLIDE, Gays and Lesbians Initiating Dialogue for Equality. We were an all-volunteer anti-homophobia speakers bureau. And in those 20 years, I trained hundreds of speakers. And each one I would invite, they had to craft a coming out story to use as part of their engagements. And I would often suggest to them to share your experience, not your story. Your story is just the facts. I came out to my mom when I was 16. The experience might sound like, for me, coming out to my mom was the big one. I stood the most to lose there. If my mom rejected me, I was in trouble. I was so scared. Sharing the through line of our experience of our lives, I believe in an authentic, vulnerable way, is the only pathway to have a meaningful connection with life around us. That through line of our experience might, in fact, lead us to our thread, however we define it. And there's the thing. We can interpret and reinterpret that thread as many times as is necessary. Esther was a brilliant art historian, professor, curator. She was such a luminous spirit. I met her on her first day of chemotherapy for ovarian cancer, and after we got acquainted, I was so enchanted, I was ready to quit my job then and there just to go back to school so I could study German Expressionism under Esther. Her passion was that infectious. Well, after decades of research and scholarship, she was offered the chance of a lifetime, a dream come true. She was invited to curate a major retrospective of the German Expressionist painter Max Beckmann at a world-class museum, something she could only dream of. But the thing is, these things have to be planned a few years in advance. Could she say yes, given her diagnosis, given her treatment regimen? She wrestled with the questions, as you might imagine, but Michael, don't I maybe have to say yes? Because that would be just the affirmation my spirit would need to heal. Sadly, the progression of her disease demanded that she turn down the invitation. As we wandered through the rubble of her loss and devastation, we looked at what was the essence of what was lost. And was it really lost? Was the essence really about this kind of high-profile recognition? Was it really about a fancy museum? Was it even about the art itself? Or was it about Esther's passion and her capacity to inspire, to give breath to, as she had countless students? One graduate student changed her whole field work, her whole course of study, her whole dissertation after one class with Esther. My life was changed. That's something that can't be lost. In fact, that capacity to inspire might be her version of getting wet. That way to wrap around her whole story and give it some coherence and meaning, as tragic as it was. Not long ago, I came upon an essay in The Atlantic in which the essayist drew a distinction between obituary virtues and eulogy virtues. Obituaries often read like a resume. Just the boxes checked. He was born here, went to school there, got married there, married this person, had these kids, worked here, got these awards, and then he died. A eulogy often reveals a far more nuanced, multidimensional view of who a person was. He was the guy who always made me laugh. He was the one who showed up to help me paint my living room or to move without being asked. What do you suppose it would look like if we recalibrated our lives to pursue eulogy virtues rather than obituary virtues? What would that mean for you? Through one lens, an obituary might be the story of our lives, just the facts. The eulogy might be our response to the story. How did we take that story and translate it into a life as a way of touching and engaging life around us? Pursuing those eulogy virtues might not only lead us to our thread, but also a way to give it that coherence that we've longed for. You know how some people, myself included, God knows, will post on social media a picture of a beloved dog or cat asking for prayers and good wishes as their beloved animal person faces some health crisis. And you send them that light and those good wishes, and then in a few days, there are dozens more pictures as our friend shares their sadness over having had to say goodbye. Your heart dies for them a little bit. You remember when it was your turn at that particular crisis, or you have that pit in your gut, that fear, what's coming down the pike for you and your furry friend. And then in a few weeks, maybe a month, there's another picture, or 12, of the most adorable kitten or puppy. Meet Oscar, everybody, I'm so in love. I sometimes wonder if the specificity of that puppy or kitten matters at all. That what matters is this longing, this deep need in a person's heart for love, to give it away, to connect. This is the little guy who showed up, so we're just going to love each other forever, and that's that. I don't mean to denigrate the uniqueness of any of our furry family members, but what I'm talking about is bigger maybe than our beloved old dog or cat. It's bigger than this adorable puppy or kitten. It's bigger than all of us. It's this bigger love that just may be the thing that's at the end of our thread, a place beyond resumes, our ideas about success and failure. The sweet, uncomplicated, uncompromising love I felt from my grandmother, Anne, certainly points me in the direction of my thread, if it isn't the thread itself. She's been dead for almost 35 years, and yet her voice is the one I hear in my head so vividly, carry it in my heart. She lived a hard life, grew up in a large, abusive Italian family, 10 siblings, beaten regularly by her father. After one such beating by my great-grandfather, she had the chutzpah, she had enough to say, I'm out of here, and she ran straight into the arms of the young man who would become my grandfather for no other reason than he was there. She was 15 years old. That marriage didn't last too long, but it did yield 3 kids, and without that beating from my great-grandfather, I wouldn't be here. My mom and I used to reminisce about Grandma after you tell her about some story, about some disappointment that you had suffered, some loss, and the most she would offer sometimes is, keep your chin up, dearie. It wasn't nearly as flip as it sounds. It had so much compassion and tenderness to it, and it actually revealed a hard-won kind of wisdom that she would have been hard-pressed to articulate, but a wisdom that would say, I know there's nothing I can do or say to make this any better, so I'm not going to insult you by trying. I just want you to know I love you so much. I don't want you to hurt. I want you to be happy. So the best I've got, keep your chin up, dearie. Sometimes a patient will ask me for a prayer, and I will often include this. May we keep our eyes and hearts open to recognize blessings that we don't even know we're looking for. May that be so. I don't know, though. In the meantime, keep your chin up, dearie. So be it. Please join me in singing hymn number 1009 in the teal hymnal. I invite you to maybe close your eyes if that's okay to do while you're standing, and if you feel so comfortable, maybe take the hand of the one next to you, or not. Wash your hands before you touch your face. But let's just breathe a little bit. Take a few nice deep breaths, and we breathe in the love, the intention, the commitment of this community to come together and to connect. As we exhale, can we release the light and the radiance of our coming together, not only back to each other, but to the larger circles of life? As we move forward from here, back into our lives, may we keep our eyes open for the thread, realizing at times it may be slippery, easy to miss, but it's strong. May it guide us always to the place of bigger love. So be it.
As our last act of worship, I invite you to turn and greet your neighbor, and then we invite you to join us for lunch in the fellowship hall.